Hello, everyone. Hi, hello. How are you? For those of you who are new here, my name is Gizem. Nice to meet you all and nice to see you. I see some familiar names. Hi, Anna. Hi, guys, all right? All right, really good to see you here. So, whenever you want to answer me, you can use the chat box to do that. Or if you have any questions or if you want to say anything, you can raise your hand and ask me any questions. We will have our writing workshop today. And as you can see on the screen, I'm sure you can all see my screen, we will work on task 2 in IELTS writing. And today we will specifically focus on problem solution essays. All right, any questions before we start? All right, if there are no questions, let's talk about how IELTS looks at your essay. So basically, there are 4 criteria: task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resources, and grammatical range and accuracy. This is the public version of IELTS band descriptors, so you can find this anytime online. As I've said, they evaluate you on 4 different criteria, and we will look at each of them one by one. Let's start with task achievement. So basically, to get a good band score in task achievement, you need to answer the question. And to do that, of course, you need to understand the question type. And you also need to make your position or opinion clear if the question asks for it. And you need to use the correct essay structure, which is 1 introduction paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and the conclusion. And you need to write more than 250 words. To get a good band score in coherence and cohesion criteria, you need to plan your essay as a whole. That means that you need to kind of have an outline on your mind before you actually start writing the essay, so that it's really planned and organized and clear, and every paragraph has its own purpose, basically. And you also need to give examples and provide evidences. Basically, IELTS really looks for those details where you kind of explain the situation or your opinion or position or whatever. They want details. So they want really good examples and evidences of your claim, basically. And lastly, you need to be consistent. So, as I've said, you need to have an outline, an organization of your essay before you actually start writing it. And you need to be consistent throughout your essay, which means that, for example, if you're saying, I support the idea A throughout your essay, you shouldn't go on and say, oh, yeah, I support B in my essay. It doesn't work like that. So you need to have a position, a clear position, and you need to be consistent. You need to always say that that is the position that you're taking. Next, we have lexical resources, which is just a fancy way of saying vocabulary, basically. And to get a good band score in this one, you need to use a wide range of vocabulary. So that can be like academic vocabulary and also like vocabulary that we use daily. Of course, academic ones would be better. And also, you need to use synonyms where possible. So, for example, if you use important in one sentence, you should say, or you can say, crucial, vital, significant, or whatever that comes to your mind. Basically, use the synonyms of the words that you have already used. And of course, while doing that, we can make some errors because some words just don't have direct synonyms. In that case, what you should do is you should change the grammatical structure of the sentence, which we will talk about in a second. So try to rewrite the sentence if you cannot think of any synonyms to write. And of course, vocabulary range and precision are also important. So, not only using different academic words, but also using them correctly is really, really important. So, for example, if you want to say, let's say again, important, but you use it in terms of saying like disadvantages, that would, of course, result in less scores than the other one. And try to use some uncommon words to get a good band score in lexical resources, which mean that try to learn those really academic words and synonyms that are not used on a daily basis. So it shows your kind of vocabulary range and precision. All right, of course, I can repeat about the consistency. And for those newcomers, if you have any questions at any point, you can use the chat box to ask me any questions or answer my questions or whatever. So the thing about consistency is that, for example, if the essay asks you, since this is the problem solution essay, if the essay asks you, let's say, what are causes of global warming, and you say the causes of global warming are actually humans, and you want to also add, let's say, animals as a cause of global warming, right? You need to still kind of have a consistency. So you need to still argue that people and humans are like the main actors in global warming, but animals can have an effect too. So basically, you shouldn't change your answer as a whole while writing your essay. Even if you add a few more different ideas, you should overall say the same thing. So you should overall say, yeah, but people are still the main cause of global warming, instead of saying, when I think about it, animals are the main cause of it. So you need to somehow argue the same things, like argue the same main things, even if you're adding different points, basically. Let me also show you how they evaluate you in coherence and cohesion. Maybe that will help you more. So, for example, to get a good grade in coherence and cohesion in terms of consistency, and to get a band 6, for example, you need to arrange information and ideas coherently, and there's a clear overall progression. So your essay needs to kind of go somewhere with your ideas, right? And they all need to kind of connect to do more or less the same thing to get a good grade in this one. Any other questions in terms of task achievement, coherence and cohesion, or lexical resources? No worries, Maria. All right, if there are no questions, let's move on to grammatical range and accuracy. As you can see, this evaluates your grammar, and to get a good band score in this criteria, you need to use all types of different grammatical structures. So, for example, you need to use simple sentences, but also compound and complex sentences, which we will talk about in a second. And compound sentences are basically those sentences where you connect or like give the opposite of two sentences and create one sentence. So you add one idea to another using and, for, yet, but, so, or nor. And to get complex sentences, you need to use these in the table. So basically, to form complex sentences, you need to kind of use different linking words, conjunctions that also mean like sorry, not mean, that also can be used between each other. So, for example, instead of saying although all the time, you can use though or even though, or something completely different like however or nevertheless or nonetheless. So, basically, what you need to do is you need to use at least some of these ones, at least five of these ones, and kind of change them in between them. So, for example, when you use, let's say, whereas, you can use while for another sentence. And I will answer your question about vocabulary, but I just want to complete this grammar part first. So you also need to use different sentence types like passive sentences and question sentences and conditional sentences. Basically, what we want to do here to get a good band score in this one, we want to show the examiner that we know all these different sentence types and we can use them accurately. So forming only complex sentences using only these ones wouldn't get you somewhere like really good. So they wouldn't get you like band 9 scores. You need to be able to show the examiner that you can use at least each of these ones, basically. And to answer your question about vocabulary, you can advance and enhance your vocabulary knowledge by using and also reading different essays. So, for example, we will have an essay example like in a few seconds. And what I would do, what I did while I was preparing for any of my exams, I always read other works. So, for example, if I wanted to look for words that I can use in problem solution essays, I read problem solution essays and I tried to find those words that I don't know or that do not come up to my mind like easily, and I took notes of them. And whenever I practiced writing my own essay, I would first get that like piece of paper or whatever, my notepad with me, and I wouldn't time myself at first. I would try to kind of look at those words while I'm writing the essay and think about which ones I can use in this essay, in this specific essay, and I would try to use them. And I would repeat this practice for maybe one or two times, maybe three times, however much you need. And I would then, in my next practice, maybe third or fourth practice, I would try not looking at those words that I took notes of, and I would try to kind of remember them on my own. And what I've discovered that the more I did this, the more I could easily remember those words that I didn't even know before. So basically, long story short, I would take notes of the words that I don't know, those academic words, and I would try practicing looking at them first and not looking at them in the other practices. I think that would really help you. And Mariam says, yes, different English books or stories also can help. Yes, definitely. But if you're always reading like these simple, let's say, books or stories, then they wouldn't get you somewhere. What I would do instead of reading like books and stories, I would try to read like really academic, maybe essays or maybe books, academic ones. Then I would get those academic words from there. But of course, if you feel like you cannot fully understand those really hard, advanced academic essays or books, you can, of course, practice using English books or stories, whichever works best for you. Any other questions? You can use the chat box. All right, if there are no other questions, let's talk about how to write a problem solution essay. So basically, in any essay that you're going to write for task 2 in IELTS academic writing, you will need to use this structure, which has an introduction, two main paragraphs, and a conclusion. And you need to write your paragraphs in this same order. So introduction, main paragraphs, and conclusion. And what you need to do in your introduction is actually really easy because all you need to do is paraphrase the statement. We will have a question, a sample question in a second, so you will see what I mean when I say statement. But basically, the question always provides you with a like an information sentence. And all you need to do in the first sentence of the introduction is to paraphrase that. And to paraphrase something means giving the same answer, like providing the same answer, same meaning, using different grammar structures and different vocabularies. So basically, you need to use synonyms of the words that you know, and you need to also rearrange the structure, the grammar structure of that statement, and nothing else. You don't need to add any other information or give your opinion at this point. Just rewrite the sentence using your own words. Then, since this is a problem solution essay, you will be presented with a problem, right? And you will be asked probably the causes and the solutions of that problem. And what you need to do in the second and third sentences are discussing the cause and suggesting a solution. You can also suggest two solutions, but you don't have to, and I wouldn't recommend giving more than two solutions to that problem because if you give, for example, let's say three solutions, you won't have enough time or space to explain those solutions in detail. And as I've said, IELTS really, really looks for sorry, really looks for those details. So I would give maybe one or two causes and one or two solutions and explain those causes and solutions in detail instead of writing maybe three or four causes and solutions. All right, and this will end our introduction paragraph, writing causes, solutions, and a paraphrased version of the statement. And the the second thing that you need to do is writing the main paragraph. And in this paragraph, you will explain the causes of that problem. So, in the first sentence of that main paragraph, you need to write a topic sentence, which is basically writing the cause of it. So, you can say, let's say, for global warming, for example, the main cause of global warming is humans. And this will be your topic sentence. But of course, our paragraph does not end there. We need to provide reasons, examples, and give a concluding cause. So basically, we need to explain further what we mean by when we say people cause global warming. For example, we can say by using cars a lot or with the industry, with the technology, we harm the environment, let's say. But we also need to provide details. And the concluding cause means that you kind of need to rewrite the topic sentence using also your arguments and details and just form a sentence that concludes this paragraph. And in the second body paragraph, we will do the same thing basically, but we will write this paragraph on the solutions instead of the causes. So in this paragraph, we will specifically focus on the solutions that we think will help solve this problem. And in the first sentence, we will do the same thing. We will write about the solution. So we can say we can use public transport instead of cars, which would be a solution to global warming, right? At least a contribution. And we need to again give reasons and explanations and again conclude our solutions. And I will answer your question, by the way, Mariam, in a second. And lastly, we need to write a conclusion paragraph. And this is actually really easy too. What you need to do is you need to rewrite the thesis statement. So here we discussed the paraphrasing the statement and discussing the causes and solutions. What we need to do is we need to rewrite the same statement. And we again need to rewrite the causes and the solutions that we have talked about. And we definitely don't have to add anything else, and we shouldn't. The conclusion paragraph concludes the essay, right? So we shouldn't provide any new ideas, opinions, causes, solutions, whatever in this paragraph. We need to only summarize what we have already written. Now, if you have any questions about the organization of this essay type or how to write it or how to find arguments, let's say, you can ask me on the chat box while I answer Mariam's question. So, Mariam, basically, what I meant when I said academic books was not really like um, academic books on writing. What I would do is I would take any like book that I really enjoy reading. So, for example, I'm really passionate about animal rights, and I like reading, writing about it, and I know a lot of different vocabulary because I read all of these different animal rights books, right? So, what I would do is that so I would try to kind of um, take those topics and subjects that I like and I don't like, and try to read a few essays or chapters of books just to kind of enhance my vocabulary. Not actual like writing books on writing, because they usually explain like the organization of an essay and how to write it, and of course they also give like example essays and whatnot. But what I meant when I said books or essays is that like finding out these different topics like environment, technology, social and cultural problems, or politics, like these different subjects, I would take these different subjects and I would try to kind of Google them, saying essays on politics, essays on global warming, essays on technology, and I would kind of read them to just to enhance my vocabulary and maybe pick up some grammar rules that I can use in my essay later on. So yeah, that was that. Any other questions? Sorry, so Samuel has a question saying, Can we get an example like a page to see? You could explain how that essay was focused on that basis. All right, of course, yes. Actually, that's what we're going to do right now. Let's move on to our second page. Someone raise their hands. You can unmute yourself and ask me any questions if you have them. Shubham, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Sorry if I'm not. You can speak. You can also type your question on the chat box too. Okay. Hi. Do you have any questions? Shubham?
Hello,
Hi. Do you have any questions?
hello.
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I think you cannot hear me, right?
Yeah,
All right, maybe you can type your question on the chat box. Would that be all right?
sorry.
Can you type your question on the chat box if you have any? Or you can say your question, ask your question right now too.
There is a increase amount of.
All right.
I don't know this.
Do you have any questions?
No,
All right. So you raised your hand. I thought you were asking a question. Sorry about that.
no.
All right.
I'm just accidentally. I just type it. I just miss it.
Oh, all right. Okay. No worries. Okay. So let's talk about problem solution essays right now. And Mariam, you will get your answer on the conclusion in a second. But basically, a maximum of 3 sentences is all right for a conclusion. A maximum of 3 sentences. All right. So let's talk about problem solution essays. So this is our question, and this is the exact same format of the question that you will get on the IELTS exam. I'm so sorry. So for this essay type, for the second task in IELTS academic writing, we actually have 14 minutes. They advise us to write our essay in 40 minutes. And our question for today is, there's an increasing amount of noise in our daily lives today. And why is this a problem? What can be done about it? The question will look more or less like this, and it will ask us to give reasons for our answer and include any relevant examples from our knowledge or experience. And we need to write at least 250 words. So at least 250 words mean that we need to write more than 250 words. And if we write less than that, it will cause like maybe a few points to us. All right, so let's kind of form an outline together. What do you think are the causes of this problem? What are the solutions? And I will write your answers here. You can use the chat box for that. So, our question, let's remember it. There's an increasing amount of noise in our daily lives today. Why is this a problem and what can be done about it? Anna says there are causes, saying increase in traffic. Yes. Also, yes, population. So dense population maybe. Electrical appliances at homes. Yes. Electrical appliances. Let's say yes. And Toha asks, is this session about IELTS general training or IELTS academic one? Uh, IELTS academic one specifically, because in IELTS general, you will need to only write like a letter to a friend or something. But in IELTS academic, we have like a full-on essay, academic essay. So we're working on the academic essay one. Mariam says for causes, personal cars, yes. So I think we can add cars to increase in traffic, I think. So we can say maybe increase in traffic and cars here. Also industry, yes. So a lot of factories, right? These are the causes. I think that's enough. What we want to do here is we want to kind of take a few words as notes and try to kind of give us an idea of what we're going to write in our essay. So, for example, if I was taking the exam right now, what I would do is I would find maybe two or three, at maximum two actually, um, ideas, let's say the first two, and I would focus on how to explain those causes, those 2 points that I already make. So, for example, how can I explain increase in traffic? I can say there are a lot of cars, right? And I can also say since the population is increasing day by day, we have more of these cars or more of these transports, like every day, because there are a lot of people, and that's why there's a traffic. And in traffic, there are a lot of like cars making noises, yeah, blah blah blah. So I would focus on those 2 points, and I would try to imagine how I'm going to explain them and how detailed I can write those 2 points. So what I want to say is finding too many causes actually doesn't give us anything, because at the end we will need to choose one or two of those and try to explain them in detail. But of course, this is like the brainstorming part of this session. We wrote more than two. But while you're writing your essay and planning your essay, I would suggest finding maybe two causes, two solutions, and try thinking about how to explain them in detail. All right, let's talk about the solutions now. What are some solutions for this problem? Anna says traffic control in residential areas, limitation of use of electrical appliances at homes. So, traffic control, especially in busy parts. Yes, I think that would be really good. And limit limiting the use of electrical appliances. Okay, all right. Electrical appliances. I couldn't write that. Electrical appliances. All right. Any other solutions? Population control too. Yes, we can do that. Mariam says people use personal vehicles instead of public transport that cause lots of traffic and noise. Yes, definitely. I think that's a great way of explaining the causes. Um, and also, we will need to write some examples, right? So we need to think about those detailed examples too. Really good. I think these are enough right now. And using public transport, I think that would be really helpful too, since it would reduce the cars, the number of cars, right? Would reduce the number of cars. Yes. All right. I think this is a really good practice, by the way. What I would do if I didn't know or couldn't find any explanations or causes or solutions, I would try to ask the questions how and why. So, for example, when we try to find examples, we can say, how does this happen? So, how is there an increase in traffic? And why is there an increase in traffic? And immediately we can think of cars and a lot of increase in the population, sorry. And those answers that we find will be our points, will be our examples, will be our explanations. So, asking the questions how and why actually really help when we try to find new ideas, supporting ideas, examples, and explanations. All right. Any questions about the planning and brainstorming and how it helps our essay? All right. As you can see, when we plan our essay as a whole right now, we don't have to think about what to write when we're actually writing the essay. When we're writing the essay, all we need to do, if we have like this outline, all we need to do is worry about how to write it instead of what to write, right? So we can, if we have this outline in front of us, we can think about which grammar structure to use or which synonym or vocabulary to use that would help us get better scores. All right. Now let's read a sample introduction. And one of you asked me for an example essay, a sample answer. This is what we're going to do right now. So, As we've said, let's remember the question. The question said there's an increasing amount of noise in our daily lives today, and it asks us the problems and the solutions, right? Basically. And in our introduction, as we've said, we need to paraphrase the statement. Let's read our paraphrased version of that statement. So we say noise pollution has become an everyday nuisance that the government and the citizens need to ponder about and find a solution for at the earliest. So basically, we paraphrased these three sentences and we kind of formed one sentence using three different sentences. What did we say? We said instead of saying increasing amount of noise, we said noise pollution, which is kind of like a synonym, a paraphrased version of the same thing, right? And we said it has become an everyday nuisance, so it has become a daily problem. And we said government and citizens need to ponder about and find a solution at the earliest. So we need to find the reasons and solutions for this problem. So we basically just paraphrased the statement, but we also added like saying government and citizens because those people are the ones that will find uh, kind of causes and solutions, right? Animals or trees cannot find causes and solutions. So we basically did not add that much. We just said government and citizens, and the others we kind of paraphrased the statement using synonyms. And I know some of these words might be kind of hard for you, really advanced and academic for you. In this case, the advice that I gave you works really well. So, for example, if you don't know what nuisance means, or ponderbat means, or let's say solution means, what I would do if I were you, I would take notes of those words right now and look them up later and try to kind of use them in my own essay when I'm writing a problem solution essay. All right, and the second sentence we need to discuss the cause and solution, saying loud sounds not only cause disturbance to the elderly, but also scare away the animals who are clueless about the source of it. So, what did we hear? We kind of gave the two causes that we will talk about in our first body paragraph. So, we said there are two causes of this loud sounds causing disturbance to the elderly and scary animals, and also they don't know the source of this. And we say in the forthcoming paragraphs, I shall elaborate on the harmful consequences of noise pollution and suggest some measures to improve the situation. All right, so this is our thesis statement. A thesis statement is basically the last sentence of any introduction paragraph in any type of essay, and it kind of answers the question generally, saying that I will look at this and that, or this essay will look at this and that. So we kind of write what we will write about in the next paragraphs. All right, now let's talk about the main paragraph one, where we will talk about the causes and effects of this problem. We say studies have shown that exposure to loud noises can cause various health problems in humans. For instance, in India, during a festival named Diwali, the bursting of firecrackers has become a common ritual across the country. Although the significance behind this custom may be positive, it does more harm than good. Firstly, it makes older people who are at the most vulnerable stage of their life uncomfortable, and secondly, it can frighten wildlife and pet animals, causing them to go wayward. Honking is another cause of noise pollution in cities. The excessive blaring of horns leads to a lot of disruption and could even affect hearing in the long run. So, what did we do? We kind of gave the problem using the causes and the effects of it. So, we kind of explained the importance of the problem using the causes and effects that it can have. And we kind of explained it with the effects, like with the bad sides of this problem, right? And while doing that, we had two kind of causes and effects, saying that it makes people uncomfortable and it frightens the wildlife, and it also like honking, sorry. It also like causes this disruption, this noise pollution, because a lot of people just don't care, kind of, in a summary. And while doing that, we used correct linking words, grammar structures, and different vocabulary. So instead of saying noise pollution all the time, we said, for example, disruption, or excessive, or uncomfortable, or bursting the firecrackers, or whatever. So we kind of gave examples of those uh, pollution, right? So we said, instead of saying there are a lot of noise all the time, we said bursting of the firecrackers, honking, and what else? This custom, like a festival, a lot of those, and exposure. So again, what I would do if I were you, I would take these different vocabulary that I don't know, write them down, try to use them, and I would do the same for the grammar structure as well. So, for example, in this one, we used that as a noun clause. We used can cause a modal verb. We've also used like a present perfect tense. We've also used like simple uh, tenses like does, or we also used different modal verbs like maybe, and we've also used a lot of different linking words saying although, secondly, for instance, firstly, causing, and all that. And also we've used relative clauses like here. So causing is basically a reduction of a relative clause. It was usually which causes, and we kind of reduced it into saying causing. And if there are any grammar structures that you don't know, or you don't know what I talk about when I say relative clauses, non clauses, or reductive relative clauses, I would definitely look them up and study them. And I would try to again use them in my essay later on when I practice. Any questions about the main paragraph? And by the way, this gives a lot of reasons, examples, right? And really detailed ones, talking about a festival, animals, pet animals specifically, and not only harming the people in general, but harming the elderly, like specifically. So giving specific examples, reasons are really, really important. Any questions about this paragraph or the introduction? Samuel has a question. So he asks, Ma'am, how can we write like this essay using hard words and also linking vocabulary like as it's showed in conclusion part? Cause should focus sh- cause should we focus on vocabulary or simple writing or mix? All right, so definitely use a mix of everything. So use both simple words and sentences and also academic ones. And how to write it is actually, I know this kind of is like repeating myself, but basically, how to use any word or grammar structure is basically writing them, using them. So if you don't know, let's say, how to use for instance, you can always copy this essay, right? So as you can see on the screen, to use for instance, we need to put a comma and then we need to give a full sentence. And it can also be added, there can also be added like different things saying during something, so a time maybe. So basically, the best way to learn how to use anything is to actually use it. And to actually use it, what I would do again is I would take notes of those things that I want to use. So, for example, I would copy, for instance, all the causing, I would copy those, write them in my notebook, and then I would try to use them in my essay and proofread it, make someone else check my essay to see if I used them correctly. And once you use anything, like maybe twice or three times or four times, you will actually get used to using them. So when you're writing an essay, the actual essay, you won't have to look up how to write them. you will remember it because you will know it by then, basically. And there's another question saying you didn't understand how to conclude the causes. So basically, where what we do in the concluding causes part is giving like a mm, general statement, kind of a general statement that is related to our causes. So, for example, in this one, we said the excessive blaring of horns lead to a lot of disruption and could even affect hearing in the long run, stating that this is a really important problem. So, basically, anything that adds to that idea of this problem being serious is a concluding sentence, is a concluding cause. So you don't have to kind of summarize the whole, like all of the points that you're making in the paragraph, but it kind of needs to end with an explanation stating that this is a problem because of this. So basically, a concluding cause sentence is something where you explain the importance of the problem or how big that problem is. And that's it. So you don't need to give like a whole summary of everything that you're writing about. Uh, did I make myself clear for both of these questions? Or if you have any other questions, you can ask me on the chat box. I will wait for a few seconds. And if there are also any grammar structures or vocabularies that you don't know, I would definitely take notes of them. And if I don't know how to use them, I would look them up, maybe study them looking at a grammar book or on Google, and I would learn how to use them. And then I would choose maybe a few of them to later use in my essay. All right, seems like we're clear. Okay, so let's move on to the other paragraph, the solutions. So, as we have said, in the first paragraph, we will talk about the causes, and the second one, we will talk about the solutions. And in the first sentence, we need to introduce the solution or solutions. And in this one, we said, however, solutions are available to tackle these problems. And I think this sentence is really good because it's a simple sentence, yes. So it doesn't have like a lot of different grammar structures. It has good vocabulary, saying tackle, for example. But the reason why this sentence is really good is because it uses the correct linking word, saying however. So this is really important in a problem solution essay, since we're writing about two different things in two different paragraphs. We need to kind of give that contrasting linking word at the beginning of the second body paragraph, saying, yes, there are these problems in the first body paragraph, but there are also solutions. So we need to kind of tell the examiner that we're moving on to the solutions now. And to do that in the best way possible is, I think, to use a contrasting linking word saying however, nevertheless, or nonetheless. Let me write that here. I think these are really good synonyms, by the way. However, nevertheless, and nonetheless instead of but. So these are really academic ones versions of but. And while we're going into the solution paragraph, I think using one of those, however, nevertheless, and nonetheless, would be really good because we're moving on to the solutions. And we said solutions are available to tackle these problems. And instead of tackle, we could say mitigate, Fairy says. We could also say deal with, cope with, overcome, or handle. I think the other ones are better than handle, but still deal with, cope with, and handle can also be used instead of tackle. Let me write them down too. So tackle, deal with, cope with, and handle are really, and overcome, I think, are really good ways of saying the same thing. And I find them really useful in a problem solution essay because if you get a problem solution essay, you will have to overcome a problem, right? Or deal with a problem. So, no matter what the actual content or the context of the problem solution essay is, you will find a place to use any of these words. So, remember you asked me about academic vocabulary and how to use them. For example, these are really good ones that you can use in a problem solution essay, if you get one, of course. Hope you do, because now you know all these different words that you can use. All right, so we said solutions are available, and the government should enact laws to restrict honking in congested areas. They must assign more traffic police officers during peak hours to manage the congestion. The general public should avoid celebrations that involve crackers, not to disturb the aged people and animals. Moreover, individuals who party with blaring music should be reprimanded and charged. So, what did we do here? We kind of gave a solution to all the causes and effects that we mentioned in the first paragraph. So, this is actually a really good way of organizing and showing the examiner that you kind of planned your essay beforehand because you're not talking about two different, really unrelated causes and solutions. What we're doing here instead is setting the causes first and giving solutions to those problems that we have talked about. So that's a really good way of organizing an essay, a problem solution essay at least. Blaring music basically means loud music. Like they are more or less the same. Loud music. It really kind of irritates the others who are being exposed to that music. All right. Any other questions? But what I would still do differently here is I would kind of explain my solutions further. So, as you can see, this paragraph only states the solutions, saying we can do this, this, and that, but it doesn't elaborate on all of them, right? So, yes, it says they can assign police officers, but it doesn't actually tell us how assigning police officers will solve that problem. And of course, we can think about it saying that, oh, if there's a police there, maybe they won't honk their cars that much, but we need to kind of want to see it in our essay. So the examiner also looks for those explanations. So, what I would do if I were taking the exam right now, I would say that, saying when and if there are police officers during peak hours, then maybe people won't cause that much problem. Maybe they won't honk their cars that much. Maybe they will pay extra attention not to disturb anyone. So I would kind of elaborate on that. I would explain why this solution works because we need to also give explanations. So since we're trying to show you like an essay that would get like a really good band score with also things that you should and shouldn't do, uh, this is one of the things that you shouldn't do. So when you give an explanation or a cause, sorry, when you give a solution or a cause, you need to also explain those. All right, now let's read your questions. Mariam says, is there any need to leave a blank line after writing the first paragraph? Yes. At the end of each paragraph, leave like a blank line and like press enter twice so that the examiner can understand when one paragraph ends and another one begins. So basically, your paragraphs should be visible, even if I'm looking at it at a distance. So you need to make your paragraphs positions clear. And Jeshan asks if I can provide a template. I'm sorry, I cannot do that. And I wouldn't recommend writing with a template because they are usually really obvious. And I also read a lot of essays on a daily basis, which my students write. And when they use a template, it's really actually obvious that they use it. And when you use a template in the IELTS academic writing, unfortunately, you will not be able to get a really good grade. I'm sorry about that. Ansa asks, is it necessary to make 2 points? I think you're saying. No, it's not necessary to make 2 points. Um, but um, if you're writing just 1 point, just one cause, and just one solution, you need to be able to explain it a lot because you will have to write more than 250 words. So, just to be on the safe side, I would write 2 points, two causes, and two solutions, and kind of give them details. And it also asks paragraphs or, oh, Ansa says, is it necessary to make two paragraphs or can we add more in the main body? So you mean can you write more than two body paragraphs, if I'm correct? Um, so basically, if I understand your question correctly, you need to write at least 4 paragraphs, an introduction, two body paragraphs, and a conclusion. But you can also, of course, write three main paragraphs, three body paragraphs, but I wouldn't recommend doing so because then how would you organize your essay? One of them will be causes, the other one will be solutions. What is the next one going to be? So I would suggest writing 4 paragraphs in total, introduction, two body paragraphs, and the conclusion, because you have to write at least 4 paragraphs. And I think writing a fifth one only complicates things and doesn't actually add to our score. So when you write 5 paragraphs, the examiner won't think that you have a better English. Actually, it will not change your body score at all. It will not affect your score at all. In fact, it might even kind of reduce it to some extent because when you write more than 4 paragraphs, you probably won't have enough time to proofread your essay, and proofreading is actually more important than writing more because when you proofread your essay, you can actually correct those few mistakes that you will, of course, make. All of us do. So, if you proofread, you will have the chance to correct your mistakes, which would actually help you more in your overall score. All right. And Mariam says also in the paper based test, we also need to do that. Yes, of course, in the paper based test too, you need to like leave blanks in between paragraphs because they will again need to see where your one paragraph ends and the other one begins. And especially if we're taking the paper based exam, I always try to write like uh, leaving blanks in between because if I want to correct something or add something, I can have more space to do those corrections and adds, basically. Any other questions? I'm waiting if there were questions and I'm taking a sip of my water. All right, if there are no questions, let's move on to the conclusion paragraph really quickly. As we have said in the conclusion paragraph, we need to rewrite the statement, discuss the causes and solutions again, like summarize them, add nothing else. So we say, based on the elaborate discussion in the paragraphs above, we can conclude that increasing sound pollution is a nuisance for older people and animals and affects their hearing abilities. The solution to this lies in the hands of both the government and the civilians, because the government and the general public are two of the solutions, and noise and hearing abilities like are the problems that we're tackling with. Let me show the essay as a whole. We predict this essay will get a band 8 or 9. I would say maybe 8.5 or 8 because, yes, it is a really good essay overall. It's really, really good. It has a lot of different grammar structures. It shows really good vocabulary range and precision. It has coherency, it has like an organization, it achieves task achievement. So it's a really good essay overall. The only problem that I have with this essay is that the solutions are not that explained, which would result in maybe like half a score, so maybe an 8.5. But since this essay is really good overall, it could also get a band 9 because Not all the solutions are left unexplained, right? There are a few things that I would add, but still overall it has good explanations, details, examples, everything. So basically it could easily get a band 9 essay. There are questions on the chat box. Let me read them. And while reading them, I will send you a survey form on the chat box again. For those of you who are new here, I would really appreciate it if you filled the survey form up. So if you haven't filled the survey form up before, I would really appreciate it if you filled that form up. The survey will ask you my name. My name is Gizem. I typed that in the chat box too. We take those survey results really seriously. So if there are any suggestions, questions, whatever, please write them on the survey form. Now let me answer the questions. All right. So Robbie asks, I'm facing lots in the sentence. Help me out. Robbie, can you explain your question because I couldn't understand it? I'm sorry. Uh, do you have problems with forming sentences, like hard sentences? Is that what you're asking? If that is the case, what I would do is I would try to kind of follow the subject, verb, and object sentence type. So basically, whenever you're writing, think about the subject, the verb, and the object first, and put them in a sentence that will form one sentence. And when you want to like add more to that sentence using a linking word, maybe, what I would do is I would put the linking word there, the correct linking word, and then again follow the same structure of subject, verb, and object. That will result in correct sentences, if that is your question. And Ansa asks, I don't understand about solution. Do we have to add our opinion? No, you don't have to add your opinion. Let's see. So, as you can see, the question says, why is this a problem and what can be done about it? It doesn't specifically ask for our opinion, but of course, while we're talking about solutions and problems, we will be talking about our opinions because, for example, if I say for me, animals make the noise, like I would argue animals make noise, right? Let's say. And you don't have to agree with this, right? You don't have to say animals make noises. So, whatever we say or write are actually our opinions in any type of essay. So, you don't have to say, in my opinion, this is the case, because whatever you're writing is already your opinion, basically. But if you have any examples from your knowledge or experience, you can also add them. So, for example, you can say, uh, individuals who party with blaring music should be something something. This is your opinion. But if you have an experience with this, you can explain it here, saying, for example, um, when uh, when I was a student, there was a lot of noise with a party, and I couldn't focus on my studies, let's say. So basically, you're free to do so, but you don't have to, since anything we're writing is actually our opinion, if that answers your question. Bibek says that he or she is having a problem in the introduction part. What you need to do is actually really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Just follow this structure. So, this one right here, just paraphrase the statement and say your causes and solutions in 2 sentences, and just 3 sentences will be enough. This is a really advanced introduction paragraph. You don't have to follow this same like mm, template, if I may, in your essay, just paraphrasing the statement however you can, and saying your causes and solutions will be enough for the introduction paragraph. All right. Joshan says, Mom, I have problem in sentence formation. All right, so to do that, to form sentences, you need to actually follow again the subject verb object agreement. So, for example, when you want to say, let's say, the problems are this, The problems are the subject, are is the object, and this is the object, right? So you need to always follow that structure. So for this one, for example, noise pollution is the subject, has become is the object, and everyday nuisance is the object. But of course, since we want to show off our English grammar, we say that the government and citizens need to ponder about and blah blah blah. We make it longer using a relative clause. So if you can form this basic sentence, but don't know how to make it longer and how to make it more academic, I would suggest you to kind of study and learn those different grammar structures like relative clause, noun clause, linking words, and what else, like everything else. I would study grammar, and while I'm studying, while I'm learning, I would try to form new sentences with these things that I just learned. And then once you practice doing that, you will actually uh, hopefully be able to form those sentences with ease. All right. And Rupal asks how to practice essay writing on a daily basis. Definitely right. So basically, what I would do is I would find different essay questions, and I would time myself, write my essay in that 40 minutes time limit, and then I would proofread my essay, make someone else who knows English proofread my essay, or there are also a lot of uh, like teachers or sites, for example, we provide that too, that give you a feedback. I would send my essay to Clasital to get a feedback and learn from my mistakes. Basically, write and read essays on a daily basis and proofread them. That would be the best way to practice writing essays. But if you want to know how to write really good academic essays, I would study for vocabulary and grammar. As I've been repeating myself all this lesson, I'm sorry about that. Fairy says sentence formation is a little difficult and complex. All right, yeah, complex sentence formation can be difficult, yes. What I would do again is I would try to learn how to write them, like study for those grammar structures, because there's actually nothing else that we can do, right? And copy the ones that we see online. Bibek asked if I can proofread your essay. Uh, there's a part on Classital webpage where you can send your essays to us. And if you send your essay on the Classital webpage, of course, we can proofread your essay, obviously. All right. No, of course, not obviously, sorry. Of course, we can proofread your essays. I want to post the survey link once more. Hopefully, you will give us feedback. I really enjoyed this class today. Thank you so much for your participation questions. Hopefully, you will all get the scores that you want, and hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Ansa says you can't understand the solution. So basically, what you need to do, only what you need to do, is paraphrase the introduction, actually, because the introduction has the paraphrased version of the statement, has the causes, and has the solutions. And all you need to do is paraphrase all those different sentences. And that will be all. Thank you, guys. Hope to see you again. Hope you fill the survey form up. And have a nice day, weekend, whatever. Bye.